No, no one's ruled out yet. Obviously, the guys who Nashi and Fralls both have to go through a process, return to contact, and then return to play. Part of that is making sure that they don't have any symptoms, and those symptoms would put them back a day. But they're both on track to be up for selection this weekend.
Having had a look back now, obviously a few days on, you've got to look back at the game. What are the main takeaways from where it went wrong?
I guess a large part of disappointment. The expectation within the group is high. Obviously the previous the previous games during the Six Nations have been good. There's still things that we feel every week that we can get better at, but we probably just didn't. We didn't quite get on the front foot enough against England. We allowed them to come at us and allowed them to get momentum. And whatever the kind of dynamics were going into the game around England losing to Scotland, the sort of criticism that they had, we knew that they would have the ability to play well if we gave them a chance. And we. At times, we allowed them to play that game that they played on the weekend through, a little bit passive at times without the ball. We allowed them to come at us, and they're a good enough team, they're good enough players to take advantage of that. Having said that, we went at our best, and potentially we could have won it. So there's plenty that we can get better at, and that's the same every week, whether we win or lose. But it's important that we've sort of tidied that up. We've got over the disappointment, and we've got plenty to play for this week.
You mentioned it there, the disappointment. It's been a sort of an unfamiliar feeling for this team over the last few years. That losing feeling. How do you feel like it's settled with the players over the last few years?
I think they've just, like any team who loses and has high expectations of themselves, they're disappointed in the way they performed, and I guess they know that there's so much more in us, and there has been recently, and over the last couple of seasons. It certainly wasn't the best version of ourselves, but England had a part to play in that as well. So credit to them. They were the better team on the day, and across large parts of the game, like I say, we could have won the game. We didn't, and we need to make sure that we take the learning from that, but. We can't feel sorry for ourselves. We've got a massive game coming up on Saturday.
So, what have you been saying to the players this week to pick them up on what specifically you think you need to work on from last week's performance going into this week?
Yeah, I don't think the players have been brilliant. The leadership group are really aware of the kind of mood in the camp, and even when we've won, there's been disappointment sometimes, and there's been a little bit of reflection of how we could do things better. So, the disappointment probably was around not having an opportunity this week to win a Grand Slam. What we kind of didn't get right was probably some of the physical stakes. Certainly without the ball, we were a little bit passive at times. We allowed England to generate a little bit of momentum, and any good side in the world is going to take advantage of that. So the players they've been great. They've reflected themselves. They've fed back to each other. I think there's no lack of clarity around what they need to get right this week in terms of their preparation, and align that to a game plan that hopefully is good enough to go and beat Scotland.
And just in terms of the occasion around the game, I suppose St. Patrick's weekend, championship on the line, Scotland on for a triple crown that will take very long to get up. Now, what do you expect from Scotland, and what do you expect Saturday to do that?
Yeah, I think I think it's a great sort of, there's subplots everywhere, isn't there? And I think we've been very fortunate over the last couple of seasons to have an opportunity to play for something on the last weekend, and but we also know that Scotland will be smarting from losing to Italy, who deserve that result. But Scotland are dangerous. We know with their back three that they can create problems, sort of one-on-one. We saw Van der Merwe up in Murrayfield a couple of weeks ago against England. had the opportunity to go and score a hat-trick. Finn Russell pulling the strings behind, and he plays a game with a smile on his face, and it's when he's on form, it's difficult to stop their momentum. So they've got a real good mix in their team, and for that end, it heightens our awareness, heightens our our feel for how important the game is. We have a huge amount to play for. We want to make sure we finish on a high and not just kind of put to bed what happened last weekend, because we can't change that. But it's certainly certainly loads for us to get excited about as well. Playing at home, last game of the Six Nations, and a title on the line.
Ashling, Neil, and Keane.
Yes, and there's still a title on the line, so it's exciting. There's still a championship to be won, but how big was the back-to-back Grand Slam for this team? How big of a goal was it?
I think it was, it's such a difficult thing to do. As we know, history tells you that it's very rare does that happen. So, we haven't won back-to-back championships very often either. So, whether it be in the Six Nations or the Five Nations era. So, I think there's still a huge amount to get excited about and look forward to this weekend. And obviously the Grand Slam, as we know, last year it was tough to do, and to do it again was always going to be a big ask. And we fell short last weekend. I think we've really gone hard at how we could have done that better and how we could have avoided defeat and gone on and won the game. But ultimately we didn't. And but we still got something really special to play for this weekend at home in the Aviva. And the last game of the championship, if someone had said to us at the beginning, this is the situation you'd be in, that's where you'd want to be. There's plenty of other sides in the competition that would like to be in our position.
Yeah, that's for sure. And Andy spoke about after the game how this side has been really good at winning, that they now need to be good at losing. What does that mean?
I think it just means that we have to accept when we haven't played to our expectation, to the potential, and losing's part of sport. It happens, and it's not nice, and it can be frustrating. The lucky thing is that we've had a few days to reflect, and the players, I think Andy meant that the players have just got to get themselves back up, and yes, disappointment for 24 hours, but then have a great week, enjoy each other's company, make sure we get things right, and prepare really well for what's a huge game on Saturday against Scotland.
Thanks, Neil.
Hi, Simon. Aside from Kieran and Calvin, was there anyone else sitting out training today?
I don't think so. No. Unless you saw someone that was... No. There wasn't. No, there wasn't.
And then in terms of discipline, penalty count was down on Saturday compared to the previous game, but do you still feel you're conceding too many penalties in your own 22 or just on the edges of your own 22?
Yeah, but I think part of penalties is the pressure, isn't it? The pressure that opposition have put on you. Now, sometimes this campaign we've probably conceded penalties when we haven't needed to. We've probably dipped into something that we didn't need to, or we've chanced our arm a little bit. So yeah, I don't think it's a massive issue. I think it's something that we continue to reflect on and see how we can do things better. Decision making around the tackle, both sides of the ball is huge for us as a team, and it's something that we, like I say, we reflect on both whether we've won or lost, and that hasn't changed. Yes, there's times when opposition momentum you might feel sometimes that you've got to do something to try and address that and try and change the momentum. And in those cases, it's important that we trust each other and we don't go and go off on our own and try and solve things. We can do that better sometimes together.
That's key.
So, did you change or adapt your game plan mid-game at all? I mean, did England throw anything different? And how difficult is that to do when you have been working on a set plan all?
No, I don't think there's always a rigid game plan. I think there's an ability to have flexibility within it, and it has to be. I think there are going to be things that come up in the game. Sometimes the context of the game changes, doesn't it? And you either you go down by a certain number of points, or you get up by a certain number of points. Therefore, sometimes the way you approach certain situations might change a little bit. But no, I mean, I think we probably felt like we weren't contesting enough in the air, and I think we got Hugo in particular got a couple of really good kick contests back, one from a kick-off and one from a box kick. So I think there was always things at half-time you come in and go, okay, what are we doing well? What can we do better? And those things are often things you've talked about in the week anyway. It's just a case of making a few tweaks to try and adjust sometimes depending on what's being thrown at you.
The defence has obviously been excellent over the last while. With that in mind, like, how frustrated were you with the manner in which England were able to open you guys up, and how did it show up in the review with today?
Yeah, I guess a lot of it is, we feel like when we're at our best defensively, we're winning collisions and we're creating opportunities for each other. We have brilliant guys on the floor, poachers, guys who can pick off a counter ruck and try and get the ball back. So I think we probably just felt like we sat and waited a little bit for England to come at us as opposed to going after them. And part of that is the momentum they create. Then it's kind of, you get into like a downward spiral, and sometimes it's hard to gain that momentum back. But certainly we were, it was an area that we were disappointed with on Saturday. It's an area that it's been really good. It's continually working and fixing and getting better at. But it was one of those areas that we probably felt like we didn't live up to those sort of expectations that the team would have in that area, and it's something that would be important that we get right this week against Scotland.
Last question, just here.
Yeah, what did you make of France calling up Anton Operation? How big of a loss Irish rugby do you think he will be?
He's probably, if he gets capped, I don't know whether they're deciding to cap him or whether he's just gone in for training. So, I work with Frishy in the emerging island, and he's a great guy, good player. He's unfortunately in a position of real strength for us, and he might get into a few other teams given the opportunity. And obviously, I'm not fully aware of the situation around what's happening this week around his selection. But he's a good guy, good player, and I think if he does get capped, then obviously that'll change a few things. But it's not one for me to worry about too much right now.
Yeah, did having the Netflix crew around the fixture preparations along for the weekend?
No.
Sorry for that. Leave it there.
Thank you. Can I just have a quick follow-up on Trish there, just really quickly? If he doesn't get capped, is he still going to be an option potentially for the summer?
Yeah, I mean, it depends really what. I don't think I certainly haven't been involved in any conversations with Antoine. So I think that's the important thing first. Is there's a conversation with Munster, with Faz, probably around what his plans are, and then obviously we'll find out a little bit more. But it's quite recent, and we're probably just waiting to see what happens this week, and then we can make a call on it.